married, one day you're going to realize something that most people never understand. And when you do, your entire life will change. The moment you stop trying to be desired is the moment people start desiring you. I know that sounds strange. It sounds backwards because you've been taught that if you want attention, you have to earn it. If you want love, you have to chase it. If you want approval, you have to prove yourself. If you want people to stay, you have to convince them. And if you want to be chosen, you have to become whatever everyone else wants you to be. But look at where that mindset has taken you. How many times have you tried so hard to impress someone who barely noticed you? How many times have you changed your personality just to fit into a room that never appreciated you? How many times have you sacrificed your peace, your standards, your self-respect just to keep someone's attention for a little longer? And what did you get in return? Exhaustion, confusion, disappointment. Because the harder you try to force people to value you, the more value you lose in your own eyes. The truth is that people can feel desperation before you even say a word. They can feel when you're seeking validation. They can feel when your confidence depends on their opinion. They can feel when your happiness is attached to their response. And whether it's friendships, relationships, business, or life in general, people are naturally drawn to those who are already fulfilled within themselves. Not because they're perfect, not because they're better, but because they don't need anything from anyone. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who walked into a room and immediately caught everyone's attention? Maybe they weren't the loudest. Maybe they weren't the most attractive. Maybe they weren't trying to impress anyone. Yet somehow people noticed them. That's because real magnetism has nothing to do with trying. Real magnetism comes from certainty. The most attractive energy in the world is certainty. A person who knows who they are. A person who knows what they deserve. A person who knows what they stand for. A person who knows they will be okay whether people stay or leave. That energy is impossible to fake. And that's why so many people spend years chasing confidence instead of building it. You don't become desirable because someone tells you that you are. You become desirable when you stop questioning your own worth. Read that again. You know what? You become desirable when you stop questioning your own worth. Because every time you beg for validation, you're telling yourself that your opinion isn't enough. Every time you chase someone who isn't interested, you're telling yourself that their approval matters more than your self-respect. Every time you tolerate disrespect because you're afraid to lose someone, you're telling yourself that being chosen is more important than being valued. And that mindset will destroy you. Will destroy, not overnight, slowly, silently, piece by piece, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you don't even recognize yourself anymore because you've spent so much time trying to become what everybody else wanted that you forgot who you are. And this is where your transformation begins. It begins the moment you stop asking, how do I make them like me? And start asking, why do I need them to? That question changes everything because most people are not actually seeking love. They're seeking confirmation. They're seeking proof that they're enough. They're seeking evidence that they're worthy. But worthiness was never supposed to come from other people. Imagine building a house on sand. Every compliment makes it stronger. Every rejection makes it weaker. Every text message makes you happy. Every delay makes you anxious. Every opinion changes how you see yourself. That's what happens when your identity depends on external validation. You're constantly being controlled by things you cannot control. And no matter how much attention you receive, it will never be enough because the problem was never the amount of attention. The problem was the lack of self-belief. You can have 1 million people admire you and still feel empty if you don't admire yourself. You can have everyone choose you and still feel insecure if you haven't chosen yourself. You can have all the success in the world and still feel lost if you don't know who you are. That's why the art of being desired without trying starts with becoming complete on your own. Not perfect, complete. There's a difference. Perfection says, I need to become more before I deserve love. Completeness says, I deserve Severe speed while I'm growing. Perfection says, I need everyone to approve of me. Completeness says, I approve of myself. Perfection says, I need to prove my value. Completeness says, my value already exists. The most powerful people understand this. They don't spend their lives chasing attention. They spend their lives building themselves. While everyone else is obsessed with being noticed, they're obsessed with becoming better. While everyone else is checking who viewed the story, they're building their future. While everyone else is worried about being chosen, they're becoming someone who has choices. And that's the difference. People who chase attention become dependent on it. People who build themselves become attractive because of it. Every hour you spend improving your mind, your health, your discipline, your skills, your confidence, your purpose, you become harder to ignore. Not because you're trying to be noticed, but because growth naturally creates presence. The strongest energy in the world is a person who knows they don't need to prove anything, a person who can walk away, a person who can say no, a person who can be alone without feeling lonely. A person who understands that rejection is not a reflection of their worth. That person becomes unforgettable, not because they're perfect, but because they're free. And freedom is attractive. Freedom from validation, freedom from desperation, freedom from comparison, freedom from fear. The moment you stop needing people to choose you, you become someone worth choosing. And that is the irony most people never understand. The less you chase, the more you attract. The less you force, the more things flow. The less you seek approval, the more respect you receive. Not because life is a game, but because confidence is magnetic. And confidence isn't loud. It's calm. It's steady. It's the quiet certainty that says, I know who I am. And I refuse to abandon myself for anyone. The day you truly understand that, everything changes. Your standards change, your relationships change, your energy changes, your future changes. Because you stop living for attention and start living for purpose. And purpose will always take you further than validation ever could. Let me tell you something that nobody talks about. The people who seem the most attractive are usually not spending their days wondering if they're attractive. The people who seem the most confident are usually not constantly questioning whether they're confident. The people who naturally command respect are not begging for respect. They're busy living, they're busy growing, they're busy creating, they're busy becoming. And while everyone else is focused on who is watching them, they're focused on who they're becoming. You have to understand that attention and value are not the same thing. Some people get attention because they're loud. Some people get attention because they're controversial. Some people get attention because they constantly seek it. But value is different. Value remains when the attention disappears. Value remains when nobody is clapping. Value remains when nobody is watching. And that's what you should be building. Ask yourself this honestly. If social media disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? If nobody could see your achievements, would you still pursue them? If nobody could praise you, would you still work hard? If nobody could validate you, would you still believe in yourself? Those questions reveal everything. Because a lot of people are not building a life they love. They're building a life that looks impressive. And there is a huge difference. One creates fulfillment, the other creates anxiety. Because when your identity depends on appearances, you're forced to maintain an image forever. You're constantly worried, constantly comparing, constantly performing, constantly exhausted. But when your identity comes from your character, nobody can take it away from you. Not rejection, not failure, not criticism, not heartbreak, nothing. One of the biggest reasons people become obsessed with others is because they are disconnected from themselves. Think about it. The moment you don't have goals, you become obsessed with people. The moment you don't have purpose, you become obsessed with attention. The moment you don't have direction, you become obsessed with relationships because your mind needs somewhere to place its energy. And if you don't give it a mission, it will find a distraction. That's why some people spend hours analyzing text messages, hours checking profiles, hours wondering what someone meant, hours replaying conversations, hours creating scenarios that never happen. Meanwhile, their own dreams are waiting. Their own future is waiting. Their own potential is waiting. And that's tragic because the energy you're using to obsess over someone else could completely transform your life if you directed it toward yourself. Imagine what would happen if every hour you spent worrying about somebody's opinion became an hour invested in your growth. Imagine what would happen if every tear you cried over someone who didn't value you became fuel for your future. Imagine what would happen if every rejection became motivation instead of devastation. Your entire life would change. And that's exactly what successful people do. They don't waste pain. They use it. They don't waste rejection. They learn from it. They don't waste heartbreak. They grow through it. Every difficult experience becomes material for their next level because they understand something important. Life is always teaching. The question is whether you're learning. Every disappointment carries a lesson. Every setback carries information. Every failure contains feedback. But most people are too busy feeling sorry for themselves to notice. Listen carefully. You do not become powerful by avoiding pain. You become powerful by transforming it. Anyone can feel motivated when everything is working. Anyone can feel confident when everyone supports them. Anyone can feel positive when life is easy. But who are you when things don't go your way? Who are you when people leave? Who are you when you fail? Who are you when nobody believes in you? That version of you determines your future because character is revealed during difficulty. And one of the most attractive qualities a human being can have is emotional stability, not perfection. Stability, the ability to remain grounded when things change, the ability to remain focused when emotions rise, the ability to remain committed when motivation disappears. Most people are controlled by feelings. They feel inspired, so they work. They feel discouraged, so they quit. They feel confident, so they act. They feel insecure, so they hide. Their entire life becomes a reaction. But successful people don't wait for feelings. They create standards. They create habits. They create systems. And systems will always outperform emotions. You don't need to feel motivated to go to the gym. You need a standard. You don't need to feel inspired to work on your goals. You need a standard. You don't need to feel confident to take action. You need a standard. Because feelings change every day. Standards remain. The person who changes their life is not the most talented person. It's the person who keeps showing up again and again and again until results become inevitable. And something incredible happens when you start living this way. You stop needing external validation because your confidence starts coming from evidence. You trust yourself because you keep your promises to yourself. You respect yourself because you honor your commitments. You believe in yourself because you've proven to yourself that you can handle difficult things. That's real confidence. Not pretending, not acting, not arrogance, evidence. Confidence is evidence. It's the evidence that you've survived hard times. It's the evidence that you've kept going. It's the evidence that you've grown. It's the evidence that you've become stronger than the version of yourself that once wanted to quit. And once you develop that kind of confidence, people notice, not because you're trying to impress them, but because certainty has a presence. People can feel it. They can feel when someone values themselves. They can feel when someone has standards. They can feel when someone isn't desperate. They can feel when someone isn't willing to abandon themselves for approval. And that's attractive, not just romantically, in every area of life. Employers trust it, friends respect it, partners admire it, opportunities move toward it, because confidence signals reliability, and reliability creates trust. So stop asking how to become desired. Start asking how to become valuable. Stop asking how to make people notice you. Start asking how to make yourself proud. Stop asking how to get more attention. Start asking how to become a person whose life deserves attention. Because the truth is simple. People are attracted to people who are attracted to their own future. People are attracted to people who have purpose. People are attracted to people who are moving forward. People are attracted to people who are creating something meaningful. Not because those people are perfect, but because they're alive. They're engaged with life. They're not waiting for someone else to save them. They're not waiting for permission. They're not waiting to be chosen. They chose themselves. And that's where your power begins. The day you stop searching for your worth in other people is the day you become unstoppable. Because nobody can control what they didn't create, and nobody created your value except you. So stop chasing, stop begging, stop proving, stop convincing, stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that don't appreciate you. Stop sacrificing your standards for temporary attention. Stop treating yourself like an option. You were never meant to spend your life asking for permission to exist. You were never meant to spend your life convincing people to see your value. Your job is not to make people understand your worth. Your job is to understand it yourself. And once you do, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your choices change. Your relationships change. Your future changes. Because when you truly know your worth, you stop negotiating with things that cost you your peace. And the moment you stop chasing validation, you become something far more powerful than attractive. You become free. And a free person is one of the rarest and most desired things in the world. So from this moment forward, build yourself, discipline yourself, respect yourself, trust yourself, choose yourself. Because the art of being desired without trying is not about making the world notice you. It's about becoming so aligned with your purpose, your standards, your growth, and your self-respect that whether people notice you or not no longer determines how you feel about yourself. And ironically, that's exactly when they start noticing. Now go build a life that makes you proud.